topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Camping Show. I'm C.W. Getz.
And I'm Willow Munson.
It is Wednesday, July 28th, 2021, and we have a very muggy, 88-degree, humid, overcast day here near Chicago. Willow, what country are you in today? Because I'm not quite sure.
Still in Morocco, about a week, and then I'm in Portugal. So we'll talk then.
Okay, and I wasn't sure if you were already there or not. What's your weather like there today?
You know, I'm really excited to take my cold shower after this. Let's put it like that.
That bad? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like that here too. So I totally can empathize with you. So.
Well, tonight's episode is brought to you by Campground Views, making camping easier.
And by Rutabaga Paddle Sports, providing time on the water. Hey, we've got a great show for you this evening. The listeners can call to be placed on the air with a question or comment at 815-663-7782. Again, that's 815-663-7782.
And viewers can message questions and comments to us here on tonight's broadcast.
Tonight's episode is the Amazing SUP with our special guest, Dave Boehne. Willow, tell us a little bit about Dave, will you please?
Well, 45-year-old Dave Boehne, a.k.a. the Brown Blur, is owner and CEO and creative director for Infinity Surfboard Company at Dana Point, California. Awarded the title of Male Paddler of the Year at the SUP Awards in 2012, he was also a gold medalist as a team member of Team USA, a paddleboard team, at the ISA World Games in 2005. Dave has starred in the SUP industry's award-winning films H2 Indo, H2 Mexico, Chasing Gold, and Conversessions, which can be all seen on iTunes. Subsequently, Dave is currently the live broadcast announcer for the APP World Tour and will be at the Gorge Paddle Championships in Hood River, Oregon in August, and on the APP World Tour race and surf schedules.
Well, with that, welcome to the show, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Hey, what's up, gang? Man, you guys make me sound really cool. I'm gonna have to record that and listen to it like by myself every morning before I get the day going.
Well, we do that with all the rock stars that come on the show.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, I have to ask you, how did you get your name, the Brown Blur? I didn't put that on here, but I'd like to know that.
Yeah, it's not all that interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
It's a long story, but the short story is basically I surfed really fast by someone, and they didn't recognize it was me. And I caught him talking about a brown blur that sideswiped him on a wave, after the fact, and everyone was kind of laughing because that was me. So after that, everyone started calling me Brown Blur, and then it kind of worked into, because I'm always traveling, I'm never in one spot. I'm just kind of blurry. So it turned into this like, have you seen Blur thing? So that's it.
That's a cool story.
CW. Yeah, I told you he goes hard. He goes fast.
Yes, you did.
Always.
That's right. You did.
Always.
That's how you get a nickname. I mean, you have to do something to earn the nickname. Nicknames are usually earned, aren't they? I mean, it's not like something somebody calls you something for no reason at all. Absolutely. Well, Dave, stand-up paddleboarding is as popular as microbrewery beer right now, wouldn't you say? I mean, now, as the owner of Infinity SUP, what's the question you get asked the most about stand-up paddleboarding?
I think the most common question you get is, what stand-up paddleboard do I need, right? And there's so many different variations of stand-up paddleboarding, from riding waves to flat water, just cruising, to people who want to go long distances for fitness. There's guys who want to strap equipment to their board and have an adventure and go camping. I mean, there's just so many things to do, and there's a different board for each kind of discipline. So I think that's probably the first one I get is, what board do I need? I've seen the stand-up paddle thing. What should I get?
Wow. So there's not just like two different types of board, whitewater and flat water. There are even more types depending on what type of flat water or what type of whitewater, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's kind of like your basic stand-up paddleboard, right? Which is the one everyone probably started on and probably rented because they were interested in it. It's 10.5 feet wide or long, 32 inches wide, and you just went out and tried to figure out what's going on. And that board is kind of like I kind of consider that like the beach cruiser of SUP. Anyone can kind of get on it and ride it, and it's not too challenging. You get the idea of what it is. And then once you start, realizing like, hey, this is something for me, or you start seeing other people do different styles of paddling, that's when you start kind of getting more precise to what you want. It's just like mountain biking. They have downhill bikes. They have, more jumping style bikes, all that stuff. So more specific.
Interesting. Well, the one you first mentioned was probably the one I was on in Cancun last year. And but it was like really weird. I mean, I have no balance. I thought I had decent balance, but there were some waves, but I was like, okay, this isn't comfortable. I got to get a little more time on something like this before I get in the waves and the ocean, but yeah, absolutely. That was probably what I had.
Yeah, that's what you see all the celebs on, right? And all the paparazzi photos, and they're usually on their knees. So I just want to remind everybody, it's called stand-up paddling, not knee down.
Yeah, if you want to sit down, go kayaking.
There you go.
There you go.
So, what factors do you think have contributed to making stand-up paddleboarding become so popular?
I mean, that's an easy one. It's easy to do. All you need is a little bit of water, a board, and a paddle, and you could be stand-up paddling. It's not a lot of equipment. The entry level compared to other sports, I guess you could say like a stand-up paddleboard is kind of expensive, but if you think of skiing where you need to buy a lift ticket, or a mountain bike, which is 4 times as much as a stand-up paddleboard, it's pretty cheap to get into. Like we said, if you get that basic board, it fits everybody in your family, so everyone could try it. And really, there's a body of water everywhere you go. So all you need is a body of water, and you could go stand-up paddling.
Dave, do you think that part of the charm of that, and I know you guys were just talking about sitting down and kneeling and things like that, but do you suppose that those two things are part of the charm of a paddleboard, because you can sit down, you can kneel in it, and you can stand, and you should stand? And the reason I asked this is I was on the phone with the station owner earlier this week, and by the way, he had a lot of questions. I said, "You should call tonight's show," But he said, that's the reason that I mean, I think paddleboard is so popular, because you can stand, you can sit, you can kneel, you can lay down on the thing if you want, and you can still carry things. So as opposed to a kayak where you're locked into a position, at least the cockpit kind, you're locked into that sitting position for periods of time. Now on a sit on top, you can stretch out a little bit. But do you think that any of that's sort of a valid point, or what?
Absolutely. I think it's not that intimidating. There's not a bunch of gear on it, or like you're saying, big deep wells. There's nothing to it. It's a board and a paddle. It's literally that easy. And like you said, like you could cruise and sit down, paddle. And I think that's one of the cool things, because if you are stand-up paddling, it gets windy, the conditions change, you could always sit down and everyone feels safe, right? They're close to the board, they're close to the water. So, I mean, you see everybody doing it, right? From kids to your grandparents. So it's one of those sports that you really don't see that wider range of age groups doing it,
Willow, you see that question up there? Just came in?
It flashed up and then it went away.
Yeah. Go ahead and read that for us, if you would, please.
Okay, so it seems that SUP recreation has grown quite a bit in popularity recently, but competitively more slowly. What can the community do to better promote and grow the sport for racing? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question for sure. I think it's funny. There are less events, but the events that are out there, at least the ones we've been to, have been well attended. So it's almost like there's less events, but there's more people at the the core events, and the core events that are still there are just that. They're the core, kind of the better of the events, that didn't go by the wayside. Because there was a point where you could race every weekend if you wanted to, at least in Southern California. Now obviously we've been shut down. There hasn't been much going on, and it's starting to open up. Like we're going to 2 events in a row coming up here in a couple weeks. So it's going to actually be my first event of the year. But there was an event last weekend up in Northern California, and I've been to that event in the past, and it seems like the attendance that was just over the weekend was 4 times as much as the ones I've been. So, I mean, people are ready, they're enthusiastic. And, I mean, I think there's going to be another wave of racing because people are ready again.
Yeah. Well, Martin Douglas Clark, thank you for that question. Appreciate it. Yeah. Dave, if someone were just wanting to get into, SUP, they were very interested, but they didn't really know anything about it, where would you suggest they start?
It's always great to be able to try something, right? And renting a paddleboard isn't that expensive. It could be anywhere from $20, or less, and for an hour or whatever it is. And I mean, that's pretty easy. You just go to a rental facility. They're usually located at a lake or even at a paddleboard, retail location, and they'll give you the little 5-minute instruction kind of thing. But yeah, just get on it and try. And then I always recommend getting a lesson. It's just like if you're learning snowboarding, it does wonders if you just take one lesson, just to learn the basics, because you'll see people renting the board and, they're holding the paddle wrong and the paddle's backwards.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, right.
All that stuff. So, I mean, there's just like a few key things that you need to know that'll make it that much better. So, yeah, just link up with the local rental shop. They usually provide the lesson. And that's how I would dive into it for sure.
So more so than just jumping online and getting a couple of YouTube videos, you'd say get a lesson at least.
I mean, look, there's a lot of info on YouTube. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'll look for stupid stuff around the house, how to fix it, and I use YouTube a lot. So, sure. I mean, sure, that's a decent way too. Actually, there's a lot of good stuff out there. The sport's been around a while for now.
Okay, so either one of those work then. Good.
Sure.
So, aside from the obvious, what makes whitewater paddleboarding different from that of flat water paddleboarding?
Yeah, I mean, whitewater is kind of one of the most extreme style of SUP, I would say. Even me growing up in the surf, it was definitely intimidating. It's a whole nother kind of atmosphere. There's rocks, there's current, like I'm not really that scared to drown in the ocean where like most people are. But I'm scared to drown in whitewater rapids. It's just foreign and kind of spooky. So, whitewater I kind of consider like the motocross of SUP, because there's like there's a core group of guys that are really good at it, and me not being an expert in whitewater, I look up to them in the whitewater scope of things, and I've been able to spend some time with guys like Mike Tavares, Spencer Lacey, all the crew from the Badfish guys, and they kind of pioneered it in a way, and it's pretty amazing. It's hard, but it's really fun. I think I'm surprised whitewater SUP didn't explode quite as much as people thought it would, because there's way more river access everywhere. But I think it's the same thing. It's just kind of scary.
Yeah, especially because whitewater kayaking is so popular. You would then hope
Absolutely.
to see like the run over. Yeah. Interesting. So are there different styles of stand-up paddleboarding with regard to the type of water you'll be paddling?
Yeah, for sure. Like just for instance, here in California, obviously we're here in the Pacific Ocean, and just for an example, yesterday we did a stand-up paddle surf session, and then in the morning, and then later that afternoon it was windy enough to do a 8-mile downwind paddle just in our backyard. So it's kind of like that's kind of on the different spectrum of conditions, glassy, pretty appealing waves, and then all of a sudden it's windy enough to paddle 8 miles downwind. And then and then in the lake, obviously there's flat water just cruising, but part of the flat water stuff I really like is the adventure kind of paddling. I think, Willow, you've done some of that, where you pack up your gear and self-assisted, you go camp, and I mean that stuff's pretty rad. So yeah, there's obviously there's a bunch of different variations you could do it. It's just, what are you into? Like, what are you up for?
And for our listeners, can you describe a little bit of the difference between a touring board on flat water and a board that you might use for downwind or open ocean waves?
Yeah, for sure. A touring board is basically just wider. It has higher volume. It's meant to, perhaps carry gear, maybe your pet, like a dog, even some children, some kids, a friend. And so touring boards are just, stable kind of cruise boards. A downwind board is very specific to, high seas and choppy water. So you'll see that it has a lot more curve in the rocker to fit in the, different angles of the ocean, and be more stable that way. And then there's like a hybrid racing board, which is somewhere in between the two that kind of crosses over to all types of race board paddling. So, I mean, we make a design for everything these days.
I didn't realize this. And we got a question I'm going to read you to here. I didn't realize that SUPs have rocker just the same as canoes and kayaks. That's interesting.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The SUP.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Definitely. SUP definitely borrows a lot of design elements from, kayaking, right? Kayaking's been around way longer. So as far as like design features for stability or, creating smoother paddling and more glide and hull design, I mean, a lot of it's taken from boats and kayaks.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, I did not know that. I'm learning on this show just like a lot of other people are. I'm not an SUP. I'm very green to all this stuff. So this is good for me. It's very educational. Lance Chapman chimed in with a question here. Says, good evening from the UK. Do the ACA do course? I think you just do the ACA courses and qualifications. Oh, does the ACA courses do they do qualifications in SUP? It seems like it's rising up very quickly in popularity, and I wonder where the future will take it. Take it away, Dave.
I'm not familiar with ACA specifically, but it sounds like he's talking about, can you get certified in some sort of way, maybe, perhaps?
I think that's, the American Canoe Association do courses and qualifications in SUP.
Yeah. Well, there are certification courses with Stand-Up Paddle if you wanted to become a coach or a certified, have that certification to do tours and things like that. A really good one is Paddle Fit. I'm certified by Paddle Fit. The World Paddle Association, WPA, does certifications, and there's a host of others. In the UK, I would assume one or two of those guys do that as well. And but yeah, the racing, if he's talking about if you have to qualify to race in certain races, most races will have a pro division, which they mostly call the elite division, or an open division. So if you're interested in racing, just go to a race and sign up for the open division and just have some fun and check it out. And then, maybe one day you get into the elites and the pros.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And I don't think you addressed, think you did this yet. Did you ask about the, that's mine, the lashing. I did this. So let's.
I have a question about talking a little bit more about flat water paddling. So that on the water with these kind of more beginner basic boards, there are lots of people lashing coolers, dry bags, whatnot on their boards. And I've even seen people paddling with their dog on the board. I mean, why would you not want to bring your dog? But that has to really impact balance and maneuverability. So basically the overall performance of the board. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, more gear you load on the board or another person, right? You're going to balance for more stuff. So like say another person's on the board, they have a different balance than you do. So you might react to different, and all of a sudden the whole thing's just off and it's hard. More gear, obviously, if you load it too much, it's just like if you're loading anything else, it's just gets heavier and harder to maneuver and paddle and do all that. So there are boards that have higher volume that are meant for that. So if you're really into that and that's what you're doing, get a big high volume touring board and it'll be a lot easier, and the good touring boards have the tie downs located in the correct positions, which you wouldn't think about too much. But it's actually, if the gear is closer to where you're standing, it makes it a lot easier. A lot of times you'll see the gear attachments way up on the nose or way back on the tail, and just the swing weight, it becomes very difficult to maneuver the board. Just small things like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of putting a Yeti and some beers on mine, to get to the sandbar. So
you're my kind of guy, man.
Yeah.
And
what kind of beers you putting in that Yeti, by the way? I'm just curious.
Real questions.
Oh man, I'm as trendy as everybody else. I'm all into the hazy IPAs right now, and if it's an all day thing, I'll admit I will do the White Claw. Okay, so no judgments on the show.
Wow, he's back in college.
I did the White Claw one day, and this is when I didn't know what the hell they were, and we ran out of Heineken, and we had to go to the boat club, and I grabbed this. I think I grabbed a case of these White Claw, man, and I'm drinking. They taste like water. Yeah. Well, I found out otherwise. They're pretty powerful. So I don't think I've had one since, but they taste great, but they go down too easily. So yeah.
Well, I have a question for you. So you've mentioned now flat water, touring, surf supping. Do you have a favorite sup experience?
Experience, I would say, well, it's like, I grew up surfing, so obviously when I started doing specific surf trips to go stand-up paddling, you're actually leaving a surfboard at home, but I'm bringing my stand-up paddle surfboards. That was always a different kind of experience. Like, wow, I'm really just going to stand up paddle. But it was cool because, in the early days, not a lot of people were traveling with their stand-up paddleboards. It was a lot harder. And those movies you mentioned that I was a part of, like H2 Indo, was kind of like the iconic stand-up surf travel film. And I would say that's probably one of my favorite experiences I had, just because there's a group of us. We all went to Indonesia, and while we were there, we quickly found out that we were the first group of guys to stand-up paddle surf in Indonesia. So it's whenever you have a chance to pioneer something, I think that's kind of cool. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's so cool.
So no one was doing that before you guys showed up.
Not in Indonesia, and not this was like in 2010, right? So, so yeah, we didn't we didn't know that, but yeah, that's,
you did. You had no idea this before when you got there. Did you like going, we're the only ones, really? Does that kind of, that went? Wow,
for sure, yeah. Like wherever we went, people were asking what it was. Like no one's ever seen. Obviously, they seen a paddle or something like that, but they're like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys up to? Like, it looks cool. No one literally knew what it was. So that was a fun time to be a part of stand-up paddling, for sure.
That's pretty cool.
That's insane. Also, the fact that you were in Indonesia is beautiful, but
absolutely.
So we have another question from Martin. He is asking, will Infinity be at Carolina Cup, and will there be any demos, any other places to demo an Infinity? And what are some things to consider when doing a board demo? Great questions. Yep. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yes, we will be at Carolina Cup. That's the largest stand-up paddle event on the East Coast. So we definitely make that one every year. We will have some demos. So that's a big kind of marketing thing for us, is the Carolina Cup. So yes, to do both those questions. If there's other places to demo, obviously our headquarters in Dana Point is a great spot. We have a lot of the boards there. And then you just got to check on our website to our dealer page and give them a call. And, most of them have one or two or more to demo. So you just got to kind of call around, and you could also send us an email and we could kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah, great question, Martin. Again, and Rachel wants to know, how about transporting paddle boards? What's the best way to prevent damage?
Good question. That's rolling the dice. That's like a age-old surfing traveling thing. It's
you get some White Claw first of all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, you could package the board as well as you can, and you could be unscathed or something could happen. But no matter what you do, but the best way is to things like you would think, like get a nice travel bag that's already padded, and then we wrap it and pad it before we put it in the bag, and then a lot of times we'll put it in a box, and then we'll even double box the box. So we go through all that when we're sending boards around. It's a big pain, but if you want your board there, there's only one way to do it.
And I wonder if she wasn't asking about like if you're putting this on your car or something.
Yeah. Well, if it's the car, it's
you use
just
foam
as you would
blocks
do
like we do with the canoes.
For sure.
The canoes.
Absolutely.
Okay, same way.
Yeah,
okay.
just the same way on your roof. There's trailers. There's a bunch of methods to travel with it
through the door or through the doors between the doors.
You can. That's a little sketchy. That's not my favorite, but I mean, the best is to get a van and throw it inside. But
there you go. Of course. Yeah. But do you tie the front and the back like we would do on a canoe?
Absolutely.
You do. I would think so. Yeah, because that's like a giant sail. I mean, it's like an airplane up there.
They're long, and we've seen boards fold in half, because of the resistance. So make sure the bars are wide. At least 7 feet wide, I would say.
Oh wow! So seriously,
fold
in half. Yikes.
Yeah, some of like the lightweight carbon stuff. I mean, they're pretty light. So they could fold in half. I've seen it happen.
Now, when you say 7 foot bar, what do you mean by that?
Just like the spread, if you have like car racks on your car, I mean, the wider you can make them, the better. The more stable your board's going to be on your roof.
Okay, so as far as the front of the cab or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. More brace. Shortens the distance of the freeboard. Pun intended.
Exactly.
Freeboard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, I think it's time. We're going to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be back with more of the camping show on W4C Radio and Talk 4 TV after these messages.
A few years ago, someone asked Rutabaga's owner, Darren Bush, "Hey, how long have you guys been selling boats?" Darren replied, "We don't sell boats. We sell time on the water." Of course, that comes in all types. We help people paddle more safely with Rutabaga outdoor programs. We rent canoes, kayaks, and stand-up paddleboards. We sell and install racks to get you from home to adventure. Rutabaga's got everything you need to get you out on the water, like paddles, life jackets, dry bags, and clothing. Rutabaga Paddle Sports, on the web at rutabaga.com. Mention you saw this ad on the Camp Show.
It is time to go camping. Introducing Campground View's virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sites, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground View's virtual tours make it easy and simple for you to see where you are going.
And we're back with our guest here on the camping show, Dave Boehne. Roxy, you got some photos there. Can we get those photos put up? And then, Dave, if you could give us a brief description of each of these photos, that would be fantastic.
Let's go.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So that's Izzy Gomez, one of our sponsored athletes. She's the 5-time world stand-up paddle surfing champion.
Oh, wow.
Red Bull athlete, super talented girl. She rides really big waves, and just a really good friend of mine. And whenever someone can win a world title and some of your equipment, that's pretty cool feeling. So
absolutely.
Those are good memories right there.
Wow.
That's a photo of myself.
This is your house, isn't it, Dave?
That is my mantra. That is my mantra, all in one photo. But
I love it. I love it.
That is from an event in Canada. So obviously go to a lot of events. That one happens to be at Canada. You can kind of see there's like a Infinity Canada themed logo on my hat. But super cool. That was up in Barrie, Canada. Great paddle scene up there. Just really cool scene all together for paddling. That's a photo from the APP World Tour. APP does a really good job of hosting all their athletes there. So, they always do a rollout kind of party for the city that, fans could come and mingle, and they kind of announce the event. And that was for the one in New York. which was just an incredible experience. So yeah, there's my little, I'm just cheesing it up.
I like that. That's
red carpet style.
It's a great, it does. You look like the movie premiere. Yeah. You know what? And we should tell people this, the Association of Paddleboard. Okay. What is that? It's APP. This is for the radio people.
For sure. Yeah. The APP is the Association of Paddleboard Professionals. So it's the official world tour of stand-up paddling. And it's kind of amazing. People are like, what? There's pro stand-up paddlers?
Yeah.
And he's like, I could do that. I stand up paddle all the time and drink beer. And, you know, it's a little different than that.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so that's a cool photo. That's a sprint race, you know, and these are the world's best athletes. That's Candace Appleby with the yellow stripes on her board. She's won a world title as well. And that was competing in London, believe it or not. So that takes you all over the world, the tour, all these exotic locations. And yeah, that was a cool event as well. But yeah, APP does a good job. That's another APP event where this one's a pretty unique experience. It's in France during it's the world's largest like yacht trade show. So they actually have a pool inside of this giant convention center, and they run the sprint races there. And that's our team rider Shay Foudy just doing her little sprint run. And I mean, that's pretty cool. You're in the middle of Paris, France, and it's snowing, and you're inside this heated amphitheater stand-up paddleboarding. It's definitely a trip, but
it's extremely cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My gosh.
That's a cool photo. My buddy Graham. Yeah, my buddy Graham. He's a Costa Rican-based photographer. That's in Costa Rica, and that's a secret spot. So I'm not going to unveil the spot, live right now. But that's just the unique entry point we got to take to get to the wave. And yeah, I didn't even know he took the photo at the time, and I was super grateful that he did. That's a cool spot.
The board is almost buried there. Let's go back to that. The board is almost buried.
Yeah, it's funny because with the progression of stand-up paddling, we took it as small as you could go. I don't really ride a board like that that much these days anymore. If I was like fully in competition mode, I still would. That's what like the pro guys on the surfing tour ride. Okay. But I like to make it a little easier on a daily basis. But yeah,
it's so small because it's quick and fast, I'm sure, right? Maneuverable, more.
Yeah, exactly. It's just small, fast, maneuverable.
But then because of that, there's not as much buoyancy, so it's a little under the water, right? Does that sound?
Yep. It, like we were riding them as like if I stood still and not paddled, it would sink up to my waist. So you're literally standing on your waist waiting for a wave, because the APP, one of the rules are you can't sit down in between waves. So we were riding as small as boards we could until we couldn't stand on them anymore, and that's the regulation. So yeah, it's interesting. So obviously, if you're a lighter guy, you have a pretty big advantage in the competition, because the smaller the board is, the easier it is to maneuver on the wave.
Yeah, don't be a fat guy like me. I'd be sinking into my neck.
Hey, but you throw bigger turns with that, so you have your advantages.
Well, that's good. See, there's some pros to that. Yeah.
There you go.
I think she had another. Yeah, there we go.
Yep. So that's just another fun session on one of our just trips where we go film and grab some content on some of the new products. So that was like a new board at the time. That was like a year ago. That's in Costa Rica as well. So just fun. It's just fun to surf in warm water, and I mean, who no complaints. Like who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah,
you look so casual.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, that's probably my main goal when I'm surfing. Just personally, I just like to be smooth, and it's just a lot of things can get out of control and kind of start looking weird when you're stand-up paddling. So I just try to be in control, so it's fun.
Very cool.
This photo could be taken any day of my life. Like we have a shaping facility at our surf shop in the back. So we actually manufacture custom boards out of my shop in Dana Point. So any given day, me, my dad, my brother, and a couple other guys that work in our production line are just working on boards. That's where we test, we prototype, and I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what Infinity is all about. That's our DNA, making boards. So
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a photo of myself on the left and my dad. So one of my kind of proudest things for me, I guess, is I get the chance to work with my dad and my family. It's a family business. So, it can be difficult at times, as you can imagine, because he is my dad, right? He knows everything. So,
Yeah.
I respect that. My dad's a legend, and I owe him a lot, and so I do get a kick out of working with my pops.
I'm going to ask you about your dad in a minute here, but go ahead and I'm going to see there's a couple more.
Another cool memory, that was the ISA World Paddle Games, which is basically the Sports Olympics. This was the first time that USA ever won gold. It's been dominated by Australia. So Australia, coming into the event, Australia was the favorite. We were a little bit of the underdog, and we assembled an incredible team. And you truly feel like you're at the Olympics at this event, right? Like, it's all the chills, the open ceremony, like the camaraderie, all the countries. It's a huge scene, and for us to go in there and win the gold, the first time Americans ever won gold was like pretty awesome. Like, I just got kind of chills already just looking at that. And if you have time, I highly recommend checking out Chasing Gold. Brent Deal, the director, was behind the scenes and filmed the whole thing, and you truly feel like it's almost like reality style, where he handed us our own GoPros and we had to do our own filming a lot. So like, you really get inside the athlete's head, and it's insane. So it's called Chasing Gold. It's on iTunes, and if you're a SUP fan, it's a must watch for sure.
Funny, I think I've seen that before. I have seen
parts
of it.
Yeah, won awards and stuff. And we did a little like indie film, what is it, like a tour, so these tour stops where we're like in Idaho and we're over here in Las Vegas, and San Fran is super fun. Like, I mean, I felt like a rock star, at least for 3 days.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this rock star question before we go to the next picture. How many continents have you paddled on, by the way?
Oh man,
I shouldn't say you're not paddling on the continent, but you know what I'm saying.
I mean, that's a cool question, because I always tell people, like, without stand-up paddling, like, it's brought me to so many cool places that I wouldn't even gone to, even just being a surfer. I like, there's so many different, like, we went to the Canary Islands, we've been to Morocco, we've been, this is all for like the competitions, and all over the place, Japan, London, Australia. It's just like, it's endless. So stand-up paddling, I mean, man, it makes the world a lot smaller for sure. And it's fun to see friends everywhere.
Very cool.
Well, I have to ask, do you remember what city you were in Morocco?
So Morocco is on the schedule again this year. And cool. Yeah, I actually misspoke. I have not gone to Morocco, but the APP World Tour has been to Morocco, and I am going to Morocco later this year. I can't remember, so I don't know the exact name off the top of my head, but the waves are incredible there. And
could be Dakhla or Mswan.
I think that's it. There's like the main surfing area, and it's got to be one of those. It's a really world-class, like, long right-hand point break.
Willa, have you been doing this stuff while you've been in Morocco, doing some of these?
There's only baby waves in the summertime. The big waves come in the winter. I did a little bit of dabbling in Suera and Tagazout, but cool. Baby waves.
Yeah, awesome.
Get another picture coming up there. There we go.
Yep. I just thought this was a cool photo because, we really are, like, we're still one of the smaller brands in SUP, but we've always kind of been one of the most visible, I think, just by the athletes we've been working with, winning world titles and stuff. That this kind of sums up, like, in my eyes, like, where we've come. Like in this photo, there's a guy from this is in France, first of all, and then there's a guy from Australia, Peru, Florida, California, Maui, Hawaii, Italy. There's a local girl from France, and there's a girl from Canada. So I just thought that was always a really cool photo, just sitting around realizing, like, wow, we have all these people on our boards all over the place. It's pretty cool.
And another thing I really like about your company is you say you're like, it's small and diverse and it's a family-owned business, but it's also like the owner, like you, like perform on these boards, so you know what kind of things you're looking for in perfecting the board. And I think that's really valuable to have as a manufacturer of like international competition level paddle boards. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I do feel it's an advantage, right? Like before I started kind of doing a lot of the design for the stand-up paddle line, it was all my dad, right? And eventually you kind of get, you out age yourself of what's currently happening. He will gladly admit that. And it just, the timing was so perfect that, me and my friends were so into stand-up paddling. We wanted to, push the sport and design and try stuff, and the energy was there. And I had my dad to help me take those steps. And, absolutely, that's where all the innovation and everything comes, is from that passion of doing it. And it is pretty cool to be able to communicate to team riders and stuff in a way that, a normal, designer or owner could. And yeah, I always thought it was a cool advantage, and it's just fun. It's easy. It's what I do. So it's not a big deal.
I just noticed we only have 8 minutes left. I want to ask you this before we do this last picture.
Sure.
You know what? No, do the picture first. I'm sorry. Go ahead and do the picture first. And I'm going to ask you this real quick before we get to.
Yeah. That's just a photo of like I'm carrying the guy. That's Sean Pointer on my shoulders. And that was kind of like the gold medal event that sealed the deal for us. And you could just see how like purely stoked and camaraderie and how fun that could be a part of. So that was just a cool moment. It's a team, right? Everyone's stoked for each other, truly. So that's just a cool photo. And that's the gold medal right there.
There's the medal, man. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. Did your dad win a gold medal here or something? Real quickly, tell us about your dad, a little background there, because you touched it before. Yeah.
I think my parents' kind of little slice of surfing history is what they were tandem surfing world champions.
Oh, wow.
And tandem surfing is not all that popular these days, but back in the 50s and 60s, it was considered like one of the, like a prestigious part of surfing. So like back in the day, every surfer wanted to be a tandem surfer. You wanted to be a waterman. They were a lifeguard, and you wanted to be well-rounded. And tandem surfer was another part of that. And my parents were the world champions out of its height of popularity when it was like on ABC Sports, and they were in Time magazine and stuff. So kind of cool. So yeah, pretty neat.
You got a rock star family, man. That's very cool. Yeah.
Hey, just stepped right into it.
That's very cool. Yeah. Well, somebody's got a question here. If you want to read that.
I did see that. Okay, so Martin asked about what things to look for on a first surf SUP: length, width, volume.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's a loaded question. I need to know a lot more information for sure. Like your weight, what kind of waves you surfing, your experience. But with leaving all that stuff out, you want to find the perfect combination of, length and width and thickness to where, it's comfortable to paddle, and it still wants to maneuver as much as you want it to. So obviously the smaller, the better maneuvering, the bigger, the more comfortable it is to paddle. So.
Wow. Is Dave willing to give any spoilers for the 2022 Whips and Blackfish boards?
I could throw a little nugget out there. So I will say this: obviously the race board designs are one of the designs that kind of change every year. Surf designs stay the same, more constant. But I will tell you that we are working on a new construction for the Whiplash that will be, it's hollow basically, and then all new design as well. And the Blackfish is kind of the same thing, but not a hollow Blackfish, a hollow Whiplash. And yeah, we've been working on it for a while, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Wow, that is exciting. Okay, so what would you say is the biggest misconception or hesitation people have with regard to the sport of stand-up paddleboarding?
The hesitation, I think, honestly, I don't see what like the sport grew so quick that it seems like everyone was really willing to try it, or they knew someone that was doing it. And we're kind of seeing that again, where it kind of dipped off a little bit. It seemed like everybody had a paddleboard, but now there's that resurgence. And I'm seeing the same thing again, where people are a lot more open to it. or they feel like you're like, man, I've been wanting to try that, and now everyone's back into it. I got to try it now. So I mean, look, you just grab a friend and go get a rental, go try it. It's super easy. It's not difficult at all, and it's not dangerous. It's fun, and anybody could do it, like we've been talking about. So I encourage you to do that.
I got a question for you here. And this is kind of a controversial thing here. There's been a controversial topic regarding the board leash from a safety aspect. Would you give us the pros and cons of being tethered to your paddleboard? Now, I understand calm water, flat water, fine. But when you're in white water, doesn't that become almost dangerous to be tethered to something? And like we talked about, what you mentioned, white waters can be a little freaky. And I used to do white water in a kayak, done white water in a canoe. And I had a little incident with I know, not supposed to use a paddle leash, but I did, and got with this household, got all twisted up over falls and past that. And there was a big boulder at this household. And I'm wondering, that whole leash thing in whitewater, can that not have the same type of effect, being dangerous like that, or no?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that promote having a leash. And I think most of the time a leash is a smart idea. There's a flotation device. Everybody has to have a PFD. I personally always wear a PFD. I don't always wear a leash. That's for me, right? Okay. But like a good example, the whitewater is, whitewater has developed a quick release pin. So, because leashes get around rocks. Now you're stuck underwater. You can't do anything. Sure. So you better practice and know where that quick release is, right? Or you're drowning 100%. Then there's occasions where you're paddling in a closed marina and there's nowhere to go. And, they make you wear a leash and a PFD. That's something where I'm kind of like, big deal, but like, you don't really need to do that. Yeah. So, especially when the board is a floating device in its own. So, I mean, I could go either way. It's not a big deal to me to wear both. But I think there's certain occasions where you need one. Like if I'm surfing and the waves are large, I don't like swimming a lot. So I'm wearing a leash every time I paddle surf. So, it just makes sense when it's needed. And yeah, that's my opinion on it. And I think if you're beginning, why not? It doesn't bother anything. You might as well wear one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And what would you say sets Infinity SUP apart from the others?
I think the one approach we've always taken is we've always just been like kind of a certain lane of premier, like performance stuff. I don't try to appeal to the entire paddle market. As we've grown, we've added inflatables, which we normally, traditionally haven't had. We've added like those entry level style boards. And that's just from, customer demand, so we kind of, I think we do a good job of staying in our lane. We're not trying to be something we're not. And we've always just had fun with it. It's paddling. It's not that serious, like I've never had an advertisement where, the guy's looking like this and paddling to the sun. It's just, I'd rather have like a headshot of my team rider with this crazy beard. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I ran a full page ad of a team rider just because he looks kind of crazy. Has nothing to do with paddleboard. Yeah, it's right. Just like, we train hard, we have fun, but it's paddleboarding at the end of the day, man. If you're not having fun and you're taking it too serious, I don't want to do it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we didn't mention this, but I'm gonna mention this real quick, and then I'm gonna ask you where we can go. But your company was started from, someone asked your dad to make a stand-up paddleboard, but the company started out as a surfboard company. Am I right?
Yes, for sure. So stand-up paddling spawned from surfing in a way. And at the time when stand-up paddling first started happening, there was only a few guys making these large boards. And consequently from tandem surfing, tandem surf boards are very similar size to the basic stand-up paddleboard. Wow. So yeah, we were one of the first guys to manufacture stand-up paddleboards in 2004, which is pretty crazy to think about. Very
cool. Little history lesson there. Well, Dave, where can our audience go to learn more about Infinity Surfboard Company, which is Infinity SUP, and yourself, Dave Boehne?
Yep. Easiest way is to go to the website, infinitysurf.com, or Instagram at Infinity_SUP. And then, if you want to follow what I'm doing and the team and stuff, I'm at the Brown Blur with 2 R's. And that's where all the fun happens. And please give us a follow. And if you see us at an event, please stop by and say hi and, try a board, shake some hands. And, we're always out there. So happy to meet everybody.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we'd like to thank you, Dave, for being our guest here on the camping show. It was a pleasure having you here with us this evening. You're a great guy. Really pleasure.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Next time we'll do it at the microbrew.
That sounds like a plan.
100%.
And that sounds like a plan, man. Absolutely. We'll sneak a couple of those White Claws in there if we can.
Yeah, there you go. The White Claw sponsorship's coming now. I can feel it.
Awesome. I can too.
Well,
all right.
We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Campground Views and Rutabaga Paddle Sports, for bringing you tonight's show.
Be sure to tune in for next week's episode, What Does a Paddling Guide Actually Do?, with our special guest, Jeff Gerard.
Until then, thank you for tuning into The Camping Show.
This is C.W. Getz
and Willow Munson,
reminding you,
learn more,
do more. See you next week.
See you next week. Woo!